From Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show. And here we are rocking it for another edition of the Automotive ADHD Show, heard around the world as a podcast and on the radio on 91.7 KLZR, voice of the Wet Mountain Valley, Matt West here. And also with someone joining me, Wesley Kagan, my guest on the show. Wesley, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely, of course. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, now Wesley Kagan, many of my listeners already know who you are. You require no introduction.
I require some introduction, I feel like.
For the folks who require the introduction, I have prepared one. Now, Wesley is a YouTuber. You have the plaque on the wall, the YouTube subscriber plaque.
That's what they tell me.
Yep, you've got that. You've got almost 200,000 subscribers. Is that right?
Yeah, plus or minus. Well, minus, but yeah.
Minus some. you could just say plus or minus. That leaves it a little vague there.
Leaves it a little bit vague.
Leaves a little vague. And, of course, you do some really fun engineering projects. You've built Koenigsegg free valve on a Miata.
Yep.
You have the tube car, which is sitting next to us for the people joining us on video. And as a reminder, you can tune into the show on video, YouTube, and Rumble. We are in the 20th century, at least with the video technology now. At least the 20th century.
And the benefit of watching on video is you get to see me in the short chair that I found in the backseat of my Porsche. So it works.
Yeah, I'm sitting up here, and he's down here.
Looks great.
As every guest should be on the show.
Absolutely.
Guest gets the low chair. So... So that's good. Now, you've done a lot of different things. Of course, you've done YouTube. I've known you for years. I mean, going all the way back to school. I mean, we came from the same small town. And, of course, if you're listening to this on 91.7 KLZR, you may also know Wesley as well.
Yeah, you probably went to high school with me, and I'm sorry about that. I started out being a car YouTuber, and then I transitioned into doing more engineering projects, and now I float somewhere in the middle of it and sometimes do coffee tables too. So
yeah, real quick. Break down the coffee table. This is interesting. I know this is a car show, right? Bear with me, but this is a very cool coffee table.
It's a V12 out of it's an M137 V12 out of a 2001, 2002 S600 Mercedes. In addition to being an automotive YouTuber, I guess, I buy a lot of cars that nobody else wants, and a lot of people have turned down 5 or 6 times, and then I buy them, unfortunately, and some of them turn into coffee tables. Some of them are still running. Most of them turn into coffee tables sometimes. But yeah, no, I started this project because I was tired of it taking up space in my shop, and
that's a good reason.
Yeah, you need...
What are you going to do, sell it? No,
exactly.
No.
It ran and drove. What am I going to do? Continue letting it run and drive? No way. You got to just turn it into furniture. So,
I like that. That's good.
It works out well.
Yeah. Now, with the coffee table, you did a video on that. That is up on your YouTube now. Now, break down real quick. I know we mentioned at the top of the show, we mentioned a little bit about the free valve. We mentioned a little bit about the tube car. We're going to go into a little more depth on those. Now, you joined me about a year ago on the show.
I did.
And last time it was remote. You were remoting into the show. I was in Colorado. Now we are both in Arizona in your humble abode, this nice little warehouse you've got here.
In my very echoey warehouse. It's very nice and not possible to light at all.
No, as we've discovered, this warehouse just sucks the light up for some reason.
No idea why.
And it's a nice warehouse, though. You've got, again, for the benefit of the viewers on video, if you're listening, well, you should be watching, because to our right here, your left, my right,
behind us,
the other right,
somewhere back there,
the other right. We've got the tube car here. So the tube car has seen a couple of iterations. Kind of tell me a little bit about where it started, where the idea started, and how is it now here in some more parts than I last saw it in?
So I bought, in the beginning of 2020, I bought a Porsche Boxster, and then nothing else of importance in 2020 happened. During the nothing else of importance, I ended up taking that car apart and building a open wheel race car, because at that point in time I had kind of fallen in love with the Lotus 49.
Okay.
Yep. The Jim Clark's Lotus 49, and I love the idea of the classic style of the Formula One car that was just classic in every single way. And I went out to build one, and I learned a lot of things along the way. And in this second iteration that I'm putting together, it becomes, I fix a lot of the things that I thought were issues going into the first one and turned out to be very big issues with the first one. But at the end of the day, the design principles of it were the Lotus 49. And while it looks kind of something like that,
If I squint really hard, I can see it.
yeah,
Sort of.
And a lot of the things I learned how to design suspension recently, which was an important thing to do probably before I built the car, but I learned that a little bit after the fact. So we're putting a little bit more power into the car. We're giving it
a little bit more power. There's 6 more cylinders. I don't know if it's coming out on the camera here because the camera's pointed at our lovely faces and not the engine back there. But that's a V12. You've got individual throttle bodies on it.
It's an M120 V12 out of a 1995 Mercedes S600. I just have a general collection of big V12s that are surprisingly affordable for those of you who want a project, if you work on them yourself.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to work on a pay one of those at a dealer now.
Yeah,
I don't think so. Now
there's 48 valves buried in there, and all of them are way too complicated. But it does run. It does go vroom at the end of the day, and that's really what you got to sign up for.
That is good. Now those individual throttle bodies come off of a Hayabusa, yes.
Yeah, they come off of I think it's like an '05 Hayabusa, and they are the same throttle bodies. I built a set a few years back for the M137 that is now a coffee table. And the Hayabusa throttle bodies have always done well because they match the diameter usually of the intake port of those engines quite well.
Okay.
So it's a very streamlined process. You just have to put them together in a way that it's A, structurally sound, and B, not completely falling apart and doesn't fall apart when there's a whole lot of air running through them and a whole lot of vibration and everything like that. And then a full set of custom tube headers on it, and everything else is bone stock.
Okay. Now, you built those headers?
I built those headers.
Those headers look very nice.
Thank you. They are shiny, and I like that about them. Yeah.
Nice. So that's going to be how much power difference for the listeners between what the engine was in it before, which was a Porsche engine, a flat 6, which met an untimely demise.
It did. It misses a rod bearing a little bit right now. Yeah.
Okay. Only one?
Plus or minus.
Okay. Okay, so power difference here. You've got a car that weighs, what do you think?
1,300 pounds ish.
1,300. I thought, and I always think my cars are light because I'm like, it's 2,300 pounds. That's 1,000 pounds less than what we normally think of as a light car.
Sure. I don't have air conditioning though, or leather.
Yes, you do. It's open.
Yeah, or leather seats. I barely have a seat, let alone multiple.
Okay.
It's especially in the new iteration, we get a little bit more room, a little bit more tech put into it as well.
You've lengthened the wheelbase.
Lengthened the wheelbase, but actually the wheelbase is about the same, but the car overall is a little bit longer to get a little bit more aerodynamics on the front to help keep the nose down.
Okay.
And shifted the engine a little bit further forward to try and get that 50-50 weight balance, although the contact patch of the tire and just getting the power to stick to the ground were about double. To answer the question in the longest way possible, we're about double the power and double the torque through the same transmission. So there's
already a crack in the transmission, you told me.
Already a crack in the transmission. Okay. We might be changing transmissions as well.
Is the goal to make the crack bigger?
I think so. At the end of the day, I think the more pieces that the car is in, the better. And then you just kind of duct tape it back to one part, one large part. That transmission was also missing second gear on the Porsche. Now that I think about it, that car never had second gear. So yeah, no, it's great.
You got V12 torque now. You clearly don't need second gear.
Don't need second gear.
Started in third.
Yep.
And it's a car. So it's 1,300 pounds.
Yep.
It's a V12. And power-wise, what do you think? 400 horsepower, 450? What do you think on that?
You know, it's kind of funny. That engine made about 400 horsepower, 400 pound-foot of torque from the factory. I think it's like 385. I put ITBs on it, and
Fair
I also
enough.
put open headers on it. She can breathe a lot better. You know, I opened it up, ported the intake a little bit. It's breathing a lot better. That was also so many years ago, you know, and
right.
that engine has 95,000 miles in an S-Class sitting at 1,200 RPM idling around everywhere. If it made stock horsepower now, 25 years later, I would be pretty happy. 27 years later, however long 1995 was ago.
Some time ago. And and again, so it's in a chassis that's light. So this is a fun project. Obviously, I'm looking at here the inboard suspension that you've got going on there. That's very cool.
Pushrod suspension on everything. I changed the pushrod suspension actually quite a bit on this, getting away from having a few different conflicting angles.
Okay.
This design pushed it in as well as back, which I lost a little bit of my suspension travel there. The new suspension actually just works a little bit better on allowing that to actuate the way that it needs to, and having a sway bar that matches the profile of the car a little bit better, as well as narrowing up the rear so I don't have just 6 inches of upper control arm on the backside of that car. You know, just some design choices, some design mistakes to go through and fix a lot of that. It's better.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now again, my guest is Wesley Kagan, entrepreneurial YouTuber, engineer.
I pretend to be an engineer sometimes. I think
this is engineering. This is engineering. I like it. Now again, Wesley is my guest right here on the Automotive ADHD show. Of course, you are listening on 91.7 KLZR, voice of the Wet Mountain Valley. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back. We're going to talk about Barrett Jackson. We were there earlier this week. We're going to talk about some of your other projects next, right here.
At the Speed Council, getting things done fast is our priority. We do everything fast, from driving, working, sleeping, and eating.
Someone help, he's choking!
This is Tim.
Hello.
And by the time this ad is over, he'll have bicycled across the earth 69 times. Nice. Even if our name sounds unfamiliar, you know our work. F1? Pfft, child's play. The world's first supersonic jet? Yep, that was us. Apollo 11? Also us. The fastest animal in the sea? Hell, we even wrote the Wikipedia article. Fast. And we're so dedicated to speed that we've genetically engineered the world's first hyperspeed speed machine. With this scientific breakthrough, you can download your favorite automotive podcast a whole day early. How's that for fast? Patreon.com/Throttle Warrior. Donate now. Download the show early and receive special perks. This message approved by the Speed Council and the Church of Fast Things.
All right, I love that car sound. Of course, that car sound is courtesy of Artem. I'm playing one from the vault. That was that TVR Cerbera I played last week on the show as well, which just shows my laziness in finding other car sounds to play. I just already had that one queued up, so I said, you know what, we'll go for it, and it's a great car sound.
It works.
Artem, thank you for sending that into the show. Now, of course, my guest joining me on the show for the whole show today, Wesley Kagan, YouTuber, engineer, entrepreneur. We're in his shop right now. Just coming back from Barrett Jackson, of all things.
Barrett Jackson on Saturday. It was nice and crowded.
It was
a lot of people there.
It was quite the event. Now, not the first time either of us have done Barrett, but probably the first time in maybe 5 years.
First time in a couple of years. Yeah, I live about 20 minutes from it, and I generally don't go every single year, which I actually don't know why. I truly don't.
I mean, you're right there with it.
I'm right there with it. I find that the car shows and stuff surrounding Barrett Jackson, the amount of people that brings to it's Phoenix.
It's a big
not
city.
A town. The amount of people it brings into the city really helps and really makes Cars and Coffee really cool and stuff like that. So there's a lot of good activity around the town that's not necessarily Barrett Jackson. But yeah, we went this year.
Yeah, it was really fun. There were a lot of different vendors we saw that were interesting, and there were some really interesting cars we saw too. And
there was.
what I found fascinating, so you have the cars outside under tents that are normally the cars throughout the week.
Yeah.
The weekend is when you get the $1 million cars and things like that. But some of the most interesting cars, in my opinion, my sort of twisted view of the automotive world, it wasn't the split window Corvettes and stuff they were keeping inside.
Yeah.
It was the weird stuff. It was that Volvo P1800 outside. There was
the presidential limo type stuff.
Yep.
And
George Bush's presidential limo. It's like 2006.
Yeah, the fully bulletproof Mercedes, which I absolutely need personal protection package on whatever I drive now. I think it would be fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Nobody's trying to come after me, but
It's just good to know.
Yeah, it's good to have that in your pocket.
Did you see anything that caught your eye aside from the bulletproof Mercedes?
The bulletproof Mercedes was, I really enjoyed seeing some of the cars that I've had over the years. Not exactly, but cars I shouldn't have sold, cars I should have hung on to.
Selling cars sucks because you always kind of wish you had it afterward.
Yep. There was a 1970. I had a 1970 Plum Crazy Purple Duster for a while back in high school that I should have never sold, and there was one there in almost the exact same configuration that I had. And it makes you really miss the car.
Yeah.
I love the oddball stuff, but I still have a soft spot for those old Mopars. I really do.
Yeah, and that one was really nice.
It was beautiful.
Some other things that were entertaining and interesting. I liked that old. It was a 70 series Land Cruiser.
Land Cruisers are
It
great.
was very cool.
Yeah.
Then inside they had the Amphicar.
They had an Amphicar.
They had an Amphicar.
Yeah.
And what was funny about that? So I posted a picture of that on my Instagram here. Yeah. And I don't ever plug my Instagram on the show. I suppose I could.
I'll plug my Instagram.
Do it. You first.
It's Wesley Kagan. I'm boring about that.
Wesley Kagan.
No.
Mine's almost as boring. At Sir Matt West. Sounds a little more pretentious, just a tiny bit.
A little bit.
I am a sir of nothing, but I put it in front there.
Well, you got to plug the Instagram. It's influencer culture is great.
Yep. Yeah, I gotta pay the bills, which we don't do here in radio. I don't make anything.
I was just gonna say, and Instagram makes me no money.
Yep.
So it works out.
Well, one of my commenters on the Instagram, and I told them I have to steal this. I hope you're okay with it. Okay. I put up a picture of the Amphicar, which if you're watching the video, it'll be here in the video as well. And but I put up a picture of the Amphicar, and they said, and here I just gotta pull it up. We're full of the show prep here. I haven't actually pulled it up yet. They said 100% what the invisible boatmobile from SpongeBob would look like if it wasn't invisible.
Absolutely.
That was the best way. I have never heard someone describe the Amphicar so eloquently as that. That was truly what it was.
My understanding of the Amphicar is that it did both. It did neither well.
Yep. Yeah, a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting looking little car.
It's an interesting car from an interesting time period, I think.
Yeah.
And Kennedy owned one.
Yes.
John F. Kennedy, not Ted Kennedy. Actually.
A. Kennedy? One of the Kennedys?
I think you should probably cut that joke. I don't know if is it too early for a Ted Kennedy floating car joke? I don't know.
It's staying in. We don't cut anything. It's staying in there. It's staying in. That's how the show goes.
Please send the hate mail for all of the. Please send the hate mail to somebody. I'm sure
you can send it to me. That's fine.
There we go.
You can send it in with along with your car sound, so I can play those on the radio.
There we go.
And that's what I do.
Exactly. But it's a fascinating car, and I love oddball cars like that.
Yeah.
I dearly love just cars that in no way should have gotten the funding that they did, but they did somehow, and it's fantastic.
Well, those are the most interesting cars from a historical standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, from sometimes cars that didn't have the money to make them work, but they did anyway, so they had to get creative, and I respect that.
And, it's like the Cadillac XLR there that had a gigantic chrome nose to look like the old blower Bentleys.
Yeah, had some kind of Duesenberg vibes to it a little bit too, the fake exhaust coming through the fender,
Should anybody, I will be the first to say that I love everything about that, but I know I shouldn't.
Yeah. That's that's a car I want to drive, but I don't. And you said this too.
Yep.
don't want to be seen driving.
I would
car.
love to drive that car. I do not want to be seen driving that car.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you drive that one. It's a convertible, so paper bag over the head.
Yep.
All day.
Cuts my holes. Call it a day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now at the rest of Barrett, I was surprised we didn't see anything too expensive. The most expensive thing we ran across, now we weren't there from, dusk till dawn. We were there for a good chunk of the afternoon, but the most expensive thing was a Ford Thunderbird for $450 and change, which wasn't groundbreaking necessarily.
The Saturday lunch crowd, but I have a feeling as that show picks up and they start running those Ford GTs, you had an SLR McLaren there, you had a few big cars like that. Barrett Jackson always has those flagship cars that they advertise that those are the big ones that sell for big money.
Oh yeah,
so
big money is right, and I
want to be clear, not saying that $400,000 is not big money, but it's absolutely something that's going to be fun.
We're leaving that in too. That probably came across on the microphones. We're in a working warehouse right now.
Yeah,
with stuff and people moving things and machines across the way there, and that's just part of the ambiance here.
Yeah, I actually do things here, and I also have all of my stuff in here, and it's
I can see that,
and I filled it. How I lived in a 2-car garage for so long, I will never know, because I managed to fill up a warehouse just as quick. Yeah, great.
Hey, that's all about loving cars and spending a lot of money and then having broken cars still and for sure. So now let's talk a little bit. And again, my guest is Wesley Kagan, YouTuber, engineer, and we're going to talk a little bit about. Give me a rundown real quick on the Koenigsegg Miata.
The Koenigsegg Miata project, the free valve project, which I talked about last time on the show, was a project that I did about. Has it been 2 years now? It hasn't been 2 years. It's been like a year and a half.
It's been a year since you were on the show.
Yeah.
Last. Yeah, about a year.
So that project is, I'm going to say, still on the shelf.
Okay.
I haven't been working tirelessly nonstop on it, but I will pull it off the shelf occasionally and tinker with it a little bit. I'm at the point on that car that I've got that project about 95% of the way where I got it. I'm just really bad at finishing projects sometimes, and that last 5% of that project just it's tuning things here and there. It's changing parts occasionally. I'm not going to tell anybody to hold their breath. That I'm not going to promise that something's coming out on it next week, but it'll absolutely show up in the future. I loved working on that project. It combined all of the things that I enjoy working on in the automotive field with 3D printing, with the computer controlled, with just kind of the general flow dynamics of how engines work.
Right.
But it's absolutely, at the end of the day, Koenigsegg's doing it a lot better than me because they have a lot better funding than me, and there's absolutely smarter people there than me working on it. And that's, the best part about it is that I and you call me an engineer at the beginning of the show. I'm not an engineer. I have part of a history degree.
Yeah, but you see, I say that because this stuff just seems to materialize after you have some tools for a little bit of time, and somehow this stuff just materializes.
Yeah,
there's something very cool about that.
I just really enjoy working on projects that are tangentially related to engineering, and I just kind of dip my toes into engineering sometimes, and it works out.
Hobbyist engineer, will you take that?
I'll take that.
You'll take that?
Yeah.
Take that? Fantastic. You heard it here first. So that's cool. I do like the Koenigsegg free valve Miata. I do think that Koenigsegg is not selling Miatas.
They are not to my knowledge,
no.
Although if we released some IP there, or we released a hidden project, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, there you go. And again, that's a really cool concept. If you want to hear more about that concept, we won't go into it in depth here. If you scroll back about a year in the podcast feed, we go in depth about what it is, how the free valve works, and to give you a sneak peek into that, it doesn't have camshafts. No camshafts to open the valves. It has little pneumatic solenoids, pneumatic in this case, solenoids that open and close the valves. And that is very cool because that is the ultimate variable valve timing.
It really is. And the selling point is that you can have a camshaft for every application.
Yep. You could push a button and have that big choppy muscle car cam, push another button, or just program it on a throttle position map with the ECU. At any point, you could have that. And then you have that nice car cruising around town. I mean, it's, in Honda's VTEC, you have 2 positions.
Yep.
And then maybe some variable phase too. Yep. But this is variable everything.
Exactly.
And that's very cool.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. So.
Yeah. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take one more break here on the Automotive ADHD show. It's right here, 91.7 KLZR, voice of the Wet Mountain Valley. Now, what we're going to talk about next is 3D metal printing. That is also something you do. Seriously cool. We're going to talk about that right here after the break.
Every day, thousands go without the ability to buy necessary and life-saving parts. Parts like turbos, coilovers, and wheels.
I'm Steve, turbocharged BRZ. It doesn't run because I can play with my connecting rod through the hole in my block.
Project cars sit unfinished, waiting for parts, collecting dust.
My name is Todd, and I bought a rotary.
It's okay, bro. We'll swap it.
But no more. You, yes, you, can make a difference. More information is available on the Automotive ADHD Facebook page, facebook.com/Automotive ADHD.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
I'm waiting.
Here we go. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. That is Tanner's Volvo 164. I know I played it last week. I already explained that my show prep this week is just playing the same car sounds from last week because they are awesome, not because I am lazy, and not because I've also been on the road for a while traveling here to Arizona. So
absolutely, and we have bikes to go ride after this.
Yes, we do. So he's telling me we need to get done with the show here and get out of here. We again, my guest is Wesley Kagan, YouTuber, and as he clarified, hobbyist engineer.
Yeah, we'll just stick to that.
Hobbyist engineer.
Again, please send the letters to him, and he'll filter out the nice ones.
Well, I'm just gonna. They're all. You know what? They'll go to me and then back to you. So
okay, there we go.
We can share the hate mail, and of course, remember to tape your hate mail to a set of Fortunato 500 coilovers before you send it to me.
Absolutely, I only accept hate mail with cash donation attached.
That is fair as well. A $25 tax deductible gift. I don't know. It's not really tax.
I don't think it's tax. Well, you can try.
Yeah. I'm not the IRS, so you have fun with that.
Yeah, that is not financial advice.
So before the break, and before we go ride motorcycles, we rented a couple of BMW GS adventure bikes to go play around in the desert with. Yeah. And here we are sitting in a warehouse with some microphones, not riding adventure bikes. So that needs to happen soon.
Absolutely.
But before we go, I promised that we would talk about 3D printing. Now, you do 3D printing not just in the plastic sense. People think of 3D printing as being exclusively plastic, exclusively stuff like that. You are able to 3D print in metal and true metal, like stainless steel, everything, right?
Absolutely true metal. So, yeah, I can do stainless steel, Inconel, tool steels, a few things like that. Basically, I did plastic 3D printing for actually quite a long time. I've done it. I have a tried and true Prussia Mark III that I looked at the statistics the other day. It has something like 3 kilometers of filament run through it. It's
wow.
Yeah. It's printed a long time.
Okay. Okay.
And then recently, this past year, I upgraded to a Metal X system that allows me through a 3-step process to actually 3D print metal parts. And there's one sitting over on the counter that I cannot reach.
I got it. You keep going.
There we go.
I got it.
And that. I lied. It's over by the.
I got it.
So, anyways, I was able to actually through a 3-step process. It's still FDM printing, steel fused deposition printing.
What does that mean? Explain that real quick.
So
FDM.
basically, it extrudes a little layer of plastic, layer by layer, and builds a part up from the ground up, just at 50 to 100 microns per per layer and starts from the bottom, same as most plastic printers work. And then, you put it through a chemical bath and put it through a cooking process that actually shrinks the part 25%.
Okay.
And forms it into a actual grain-structured steel and you can knock them together and it sounds like steel.
Yeah, here we go. We'll do it on the mic here.
That is a 3D printed part.
This is, what did you say the other day? Like 90%, 95% that of a machined part in terms of strength?
Depending on what grade of material you're printing in, I can hit about 99.4% the strength of a 3D printed part, or a traditionally machined part with the 3D printing.
Really?
So
that's very cool, because there are, as we know, there are designs in this world that you couldn't actually machine because of the shape of them. There would be no way to machine something with a complex curve on the inside or something like that. A machinist would tell me I'm wrong here, but there are some things that you can't machine, and with this, you could print them.
Absolutely. I mean, additive manufacturing is truly the future for a lot of things, and I can say that very comfortably because I own an additive manufacturing business.
Well, and I was going to say, this is a business you do. You do this. You do this partially for a living as well.
I absolutely do. Yeah.
And, in addition to the YouTube and other stuff like that, granted, a 3D metal printer is not something you go buy on, a hobbyist website. And this was a substantial investment.
Yeah. And it's a bit of an extensive process to get everything up and running. And it's a bit of an extensive process in actually the manufacturing of the parts as well. You don't just get to click a button and everything comes out all pretty. But no, it works out. It works out very well because I'm able to manufacture a lot of things that just wouldn't otherwise be able to be manufactured, and that on the YouTube side, it helps a lot in designing with the race car and stuff. Suspension configurations that previously weren't originally available,
right?
Not having to operate around the constraints of traditional manufacturing with that.
That is fair. What are some things that you can do with this? Like, what are some examples of some parts that would be a good candidate to be 3D printed metal-wise?
Realistically, any part that has internal geometries that aren't necessarily able to be manufactured, that you can't, because when you traditionally manufacture a part using a milling machine or a CNC lathe or something like that, or even a 5-axis machine, you're still limited by the position on which you can get that tool in to remove that material.
Right.
By building up the part layer by layer, what it does is it allows those complex internal geometries in turbines, in turbine housings, to be able to be created without having to be able to get a tool in there and remove that material. You're able to just build around that material. And that's really the bread and butter of additive manufacturing, is to complex geometries that just are too complicated or prohibitively expensive or difficult on traditional CNC manufacturing.
That's very cool. And now, obviously, a lot of use in the aerospace industry.
Absolutely.
A lot of use in that.
Well, and again, it's the same with traditional 3D printing. On the stainless steel parts, I can obviously do solid parts, but the internal structures of the 3D printed components, and you could put up a picture of this for the people who are watching on video, are still a triangular filled structure. So you actually can create significantly stronger and lighter parts just based on the geometries of the parts themselves.
Right. So essentially, it's not just, like a flat part that you would machine that is, say solid metal all the way through. There's actually like a structure inside of that,
correct,
weaved inside of that. And that makes it stronger because
correct,
you're able to determine the direction that goes in and all of these different, really complicated factors.
And depending on the part, it gives you more surface area for the overall strength of the component, while in critical applications, removing weight. So you can make a part out of steel that's 30 to 35% lighter than a machine component when those grams actually matter.
That's cool. That's actually very cool, because that's something you can't do with a machine part at all.
Exactly.
Even if you were going to replicate a part with 3D printing that you could otherwise machine, you can still make it lighter and you can make it stronger with the 3D metal printing.
Absolutely. And I mean, I encourage anybody to go out. I mean, a 3D printer is one of the tools in my shop that gets used the most, even when I'm going to make a part out of steel using traditional methods. it's so handy to have around to do templates, to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just an incredibly useful tool. And plastic 3D printers have gotten to the point of affordability that, they've genuinely gotten very affordable even in the past 2 or 3 years.
I dig it. So 3D metal printing, you've got this going on. You've got the tube car. You've got all these other projects.
I got projects.
What other projects do you have in the works? Is there anything?
I have a few cool metal 3D printing projects with, I'm going back to the Harbor Freight engines for a little bit, and I have a few super cool things now that we're experimenting around with the metal 3D printing and a little bit of topology optimization in small hobbyist engines, and let's see if we can get some parts on there a lot lighter internally. And we have a lot of fun upcoming projects planned out this year. So
I love it. You can find him on YouTube at Wesley Kagan. You can find him on Instagram also at Wesley Kagan. He's pretty much Wesley Kagan everywhere.
I was the first one on the internet, so I got all the cool names.
There you go. It's what can you do? There you go. I love it. Subscribe to him on YouTube. Give him a follow on Instagram. Keep up with this stuff because it is really, really cool. I can't think of another person doing some of the neat stuff that you're doing here. And of course, I also appreciate you letting me stay here in Arizona and bug you for a couple of days. And,
anytime, absolutely.
And it's also warm here.
It's nice.
It's warm. It's been 60 degrees all week, and everywhere I go, people are like, "Oh, isn't it so cold?" And I'm like, "I'm from Colorado. I just came from Colorado. I don't know what cold is. This is summertime to me."
It is 62 degrees, and I'm in a jacket. So that, yep.
I did bring my flip-flops. I did actually bring my flip-flops. I'm not wearing them now, but
Nope.
There you go.
But all of the Colorado, I'm not accustomed to Colorado anymore. It's 60 and I have a jacket on. Not worth it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna poke fun when it's 150 down here and you're boiling eggs and stuff on
the sidewalk.
Yeah,
so, not worth it.
There you go, Wesley. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, thank you for listening to the show. You can find the show wherever fine shows and I guess this one are downloaded. Of course, remember to follow it on YouTube, also on Rumble. Listen to it on the radio Saturday mornings, 91.7 KLZR. If you listen on Spotify, give it a rating, 6 stars. Let's blow up Spotify's rating. I see 64 people who only gave it 5 stars, so I think we need to up that.
I need to download the app that allows me to do 6 stars.
6 stars. Yep. Okay. Yep. We'll get that one on the road there.
I'll get right on that.
Yep, we'll make it work. Thank you for joining me here, and thank you for listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. The phone is on silent, so that's good.
Oh, I'm absolutely somebody who would. I will absolutely take a call in the middle of a panel. I am that person. I will. Yeah. No, don't worry.
Yep, on live radio.
On live radio.
20,000 people listening, folks. That's take a call on there.
Exactly.
So
it's not going to be a call for the show. It's just going to be a personal phone call.
All right.
I just like to give you outtakes, honestly.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's all I need, really.
My whole life is an outtake. It's okay.
And then we're going to roll this open. I'm going to push this button, and then you'll hear stuff.